Well, isn't this just fine and dandy? I wanted to get done talking about Matpat and rip into another creator, but nope! Here we are, boys and girls, and we're still talking about that heartbound controversy from a couple weeks ago. And let me tell you, there have been a few videos that I wanted to tear into concerning this, but considering that the GamerFromMars happened to be the biggest and most boring out of these videos, I figured I could give 15 minutes or so to talk about it. So if you're not aware of the recent controversy about Matpat, you can go watch my video about the subject. Shouldn't be too hard. It's the one that I made with this thumbnail.
Welcome to Game Theory.
And if you're not able to watch a 10-minute video about the subject, then I'm sorry, but your attention must be shorter than my massive
Looking back at the whole situation, it was just really weird. I had a half a dozen big creators congratulating me for something I didn't even know I did. None of them really seemed to have any major grievances against Matpat when I asked them, but they liked seeing him knock down a few pegs as they saw it. This led me to start wondering why exactly people dislike game theory so much. Almost all the drama I saw surrounding Matt seemed so petty and minor. People complaining about Five Nights at Freddy's videos and stuff like that. None of it was legitimate reasons to hate a person.
Alright, so aside from the fact that this is anecdotal and doesn't represent the proper reasons for why people take issue with Matpat and his ways, this is a real shoddy thing to do. You see, what GamerFromMars is attempting to do in my eyes is trying to label those who have grievances with Matpat as being nothing but petty, setting up the presumption that the people who can get on Matpat's case are doing it for minor issues. That, however, as I can tell you, is not the case. People get on Matpat for misinformation, and some people will say it's just video games, nothing serious. And to that I will reply with, what is serious to some people will not be serious to another. We live in a society where people pretty much live and breathe their fandoms and hobbies. Do people take it a bit too seriously? Yes, but if there's something you're passionate about, that passion will be negatively expressed if the subject's being misrepresented by someone who has a lot of reach and large following. You need only look to things like his For Honor video or his video about Overwatch vs TF2. Both are situations where Matpat fails to show any understanding of what he's talking about. Granted, I need only to point to my series to show that this is a recurring problem in a lot of his videos, and how this isn't an accident, but done intentionally. Heck, according to what Matpat and his wife said,
eventually people will figure out that it's not true.
Hopefully.
And it's like, why, you know, why bother with it if, like, we know it's not true, other people will figure it out eventually.
There's a lot of stuff out there. We thought, you know, reacting to haters is a thing that a lot of channels do.
It's fun, right?
And,
yeah!
Well, yeah, we'll see. And it's also one of those things, too, where, like, because we've never put our perspective or kind of our story out there, it's a good chance to kind of clear up misconceptions. Because if you don't respond to things, how will people know the truth, right? Or how will they, like, they only have to go off of what other people are telling them?
Yeah.
There's also the perspective of Nick Nocturne. Now, heads up on this, I do not know if Nick still subscribes to this idea, but this idea does show that there are other reasons why people take issue with Matpat.
On to things, how will people know the truth, right? Or how will they, like, they only have to go off of what other people are telling them?
Yeah.
In this case, Nick Nocturne felt that Matpat was being disrespectful to the people. In this case, Scott Cawthorn, attacking Scott, insulting Scott, telling Scott that he can't write his own games correctly, insisting that Scott broke the story because Matpat can't make sense of something, and etc, etc. People have more issues as to why they dislike Matpat, but nah, it's all about the petty stuff and only about the naff.
But they did. Well, with the new year, there's new drama, and in less than 2 weeks, game theory has found itself in 2 new feuds. So let's find out what's happening to Matpat that is causing this new round of hate, and see if we can get to the bottom of why some people don't like him. The first of these was over a live stream where Matpat gave positive coverage to an indie game titled Heartbound.
Alright, hold it. Stop right there! What the hell is this? GamerFromMars, what the hell are you doing? Can you not be bothered to do actual research? Now, some of you may be thinking that this is a nitpick, but let me point out that this image that GamerFromMars is showing is the thumbnail from 2 years ago. Yeah, it was back when Game Theory played the demo of the game. Now, the reason why this is important is because GamerFromMars isn't giving proper context. especially when he talks about the title next. Think of this issue as being emblematic of what we'll be seeing later in the video.
The creator of the game wasn't too pleased with this stream, calling it out for a clickbait title that compared his game to Undertale.
Nope, you see the title blatantly and called it the next Undertale game.
It says, quote, "Hey Matpat, I'm pretty disappointed here and so is our community. Your recent GT Live came across as an Undertale clickbait mashup instead of being about Heartbound. You never linked to our game and you got our studio name wrong as well." And then they showed the metadata, aka tags and description for the stream. Now, here's the thing. I watched through the whole stream, and the stream itself does not come across as an Undertale mashup. But the original title, The Next Undertale Game Is Here, is deceptive. Even one like The Next Undertale Is Here would have been better. It would have given the impression it's like Undertale, but isn't in the same franchise, and isn't made by the same creator.
That's not making a comparison, that's blatantly calling it a part of the Undertale franchise, misrepresenting what the situation was again.
Getting a name wrong, not giving what he felt was sufficient promotion, and a supposed misleading video tag.
I think you mean tags. Again, this is another nitpick, but looking at the metadata, Heartbound was mentioned about twice, and the rest of the tags were Deltarune and Undertale related tags.
Needless to say, this criticism took off. So was this reaction justified? Well, in short, no. I mean, they did get the name of the game studio wrong, which could have used a correction, but many of the other points against the stream kinda just come off as, well, really petty.
And here comes a good question, by whose standards? Yours? Probably, but then again, who's to say that they are petty or not? In fact, you go on to contradict yourself in this part since you admit that the title was an issue.
The one thing people were complaining about was how the tags of the video mention Undertale, which I guess they're claiming would confuse people into thinking Heartbound was related to that franchise. But that makes no sense. Tags have been hidden from general public view for years now, so the idea that this metadata confused people is absolute grade A nonsense.
Although I do agree from Pirate Software's perspective is a little bit off here, you're also ignoring that Toby Fox came in and saying that it was misleading. Just because you can't see the tags, that doesn't mean that isn't an issue. The game has nothing to do with Undertale. Sure, you can say it was inspired by it, but that doesn't mean it has a connection to the actual game. An argument can even be made that the tags were used to mislead people onto clicking onto the video, thinking it was Undertale related, especially with the title of the video aiding that thought.
The more valid point that may have actually led to confusion was a thumbnail and title that could have led people into believing this game was related to Undertale. The thing is though, if you watch the stream, they make it very clear that this is not an actual game in the Undertale series, but rather a game that is in a similar genre and may be the next big indie hit.
Not so much a point against him, but how people keep saying that it wasn't a mashup and be like, it's not like that at all, boys and girls, just take my word for it, blah 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 blah. I'm getting tired of people saying that without actually providing a clip of the live stream that can actually prove their point.
I don't know if you remember it, it's called Heartbound. It was kind of one of those ones that came out in the aftermath of Undertale, but goes in a very different direction with it. It's kind of got that Earthboundy Mother series feel to it, that Undertale feel to it. It's an RPG. We did it a year ago when it was just in demo form.
There, is that so hard to put in your videos? A 19-second clip where you can find the first 7 minutes of the video and you wouldn't have to be, oh, just take my word, boys and girls. And considering that GamerFromMars is already being deceptive so far with this, I'm sorry, I'm not just going to take his word at it.
It was clearly clickbait, no doubt, but I have trouble believing people that watched the stream actually thought that this was a sequel.
Again, this is something that you could actually double check and provide evidence of since the top chat displays it in the video. Again, this isn't my job, but GamerFromMars' job to actually prove this to be the case. Besides, I'd rather not have all that in my video talking about how Matpat's hairstyle was red for some reason.
But if they only read the original title, I can see where they're coming from on this point. The weirdest point against the stream, I think, is that people were mad that there wasn't a link to purchase the game in the description. I've been on YouTube for a decade now and can verify that this has never been a standard practice. So going after only game theory for it is dumb.
Oh boy, again with the anecdotal evidence. And it goes to show that GamerFromMars didn't actually understand the situation that he's talking about. And I quote from Matpat's tweet. Regarding links, we don't tend to link back to the games we're playing. That's not an intentional slight on you, it's just rarely something we do for games that aren't fan-made or free. Now, one can easily look at the quote and see that there isn't an issue, but notice it's just rarely something we do for games that aren't fan-made or free, meaning that Matpat does link to games, albeit fan-made and free of course, but still links to them. Why should paid games not be included when you provide links? In addition, Matpat said this earlier in his tweets. We're hoping to introduce them to it when they might not have checked it out, if left with zero context. Essentially, Matpat wanted his audience to get introduced to the game, but if that were the case, then why not link to the game itself? If the game is great, wouldn't you want developers to get more support possibly from your audience? Putting a link does make the chances of people checking out the game all the better since it saves them time on searching. And if people are bringing up the point that you can Google the game, congratulations on missing the point. The game is still a source that people are using their videos to make money. If it's a review or playthrough, it's more of a courtesy, especially if the game is good in the video maker's eyes, and they want to promote the game as best they can. That's not even touching the fact that GamerFromMars' anecdote doesn't even begin to cover all YouTubers. Markiplier and Jacksepticeye, arguably two of, if not the biggest Let's Players, do link their games that they have in their descriptions. You see, this is a problem that the GamerFromMars fails to take into consideration with his video about the situation. He's ignoring the reaction that Matpat had on Twitter. And this is a problem that a lot of defenders of Matpat aren't taking into account, his reaction to the situation, which is what a lot of people are taking issue with. Then again, I don't blame them, after all the tweets were deleted, but in that same regard, they were cataloged, so there's no real excuse for that.
If you're outraged at Matpat for not putting a link in the description to Heartbound, do you also get mad when Call of Duty channels don't link to Activision.com? This part just seems hypocritical.
That is not hypocrisy. For one thing, this comparison is extremely unfair. You're comparing an indie game to one of the biggest franchises in gaming. You know, Call of Duty that gets television ads and is often mocked for being so repetitive. Secondly, this is the problem without including the tweets for context. Matpat said his goal was to support the game and get it as much of an audience as it could. Including a link to the game would only be natural if that was his motivation that he claimed it was. Thirdly, it depends on the context of the videos in question. This is way too much of a generalization of the situation. Something that you're actively ignoring since we have the context that flies in the face of this argument. We have the context of Matpat saying what his goal was, and yet you're blatantly ignoring it. And finally, screw you for trying to assume what people's standards are and trying to claim hypocrisy.
In summary, the only piece of this outrage I'm at all sympathetic to is that the clickbait in the title and thumbnail may have gone too far, and that they needed to correct the studio's name. But does that really justify 100,000 people going after Matt?
How lovely that you ignore his reaction to Pirate Software's claims. I guess that doesn't count at all.
At the end of the day, the creators of Heartbound should come away from this controversy in a good mood. This all gave them a ton of free publicity for their game. As if things couldn't get any worse, immediately after this first controversy, another started up. This time the focus was on YouTuber Legal Eagle, who pointed out that Matt's legal analysis video for the Fortnite dance lawsuits was suspiciously similar to his from a week prior. He basically said that if Game Theory did use his video as a blueprint, he would have appreciated a plug in the description.
I'm glad that Matpat found my video interesting, and I'm glad that you, a fellow Legal Eagle, find it interesting as well. But come on, man. When a channel with 11 million subscribers rips off the actual hard work and analysis of a tiny channel, the least you can do is drop me a link.
You must be allergic to context. It's convenient you forget to include the clip before of Legal Eagle saying that based on analysis and looking at the situation with the information that was available at the time on the public view, he said this.
Did Matpat infringe the copyright of my original video in a video about stealing other people's IP? Well, let's think like a lawyer. Copyright protects the actual expression produced, not the underlying ideas. Matpat's analysis is very similar to my own, and it's very coincidental that his video came out almost exactly a week after mine did. That's what real lawyers call circumstantial evidence, and it's very strong. But in fairness, Matpat isn't copying my analysis word for word. But given the similarity of the analysis and the timing of the videos, I'm pretty confident that my original video provided the background legal knowledge for his video. And you know what? That's great. That's why I do this, to help explain to others the laws that govern our everyday lives, and even how they interact with video games. I'm glad that Matpat found my video interesting, and I'm glad that you, a fellow Legal Eagle, find it interesting as well. But come on, man. When a channel with 11 million subscribers rips off the actual hard work and analysis of a tiny channel, the least you can do is drop me a link. And maybe next time, leave the copyright law to the actual copyright lawyers.
I'm going to defend Matpat here and say that if he did use Legal Eagle's video, he would have given credits. The reason I say this is because in other videos he usually does give credit where credit is due. An example of this is in one of his theories about Jake Paul. He clearly gives credit to Nerd City when he's bringing up a point that was originally brought up on that channel.
And I can bring up examples of Matpat not crediting artists whose work are in his videos, and are only credited afterwards when they complain to him. There's also the fact that Matpat doesn't cite the works of his sources, especially when they happen to be in scientific papers or information, or how until very recently he didn't properly credit his team or writers. You can point to one example of this, and I can point to several others to the contrary. Face it, it's an issue that Matpat and the game theorists have.
So if he did use Legal Eagle's video, it just doesn't make any sense that he wouldn't give credit here. An official response from Matt backs up my skepticism as well.
Because as we all know, if Matpat says it, it must be true. Now, don't take this to mean that I believe that this isn't true. But considering that Matpat's process on making videos isn't exactly public information, he lists dates without actually providing any actual context or evidence that these dates are accurate. GamerFromMars is just blindly accepting what Matpat says here to be true. Now, I've had people like Shadversity come onto my video about this and tell me that not only am I the most level-headed in the situation, but explain to me that the videos that Matpat make do take a lot of time. While he's not a member of Matpat's editing staff, I am willing to take his word on it, because he has experience that is similar to it. However, that's not what GamerFromMars is doing here. He just accepts what Matpat says in this comment right here off the bat without providing any actual proof to back up that it's true. At least with Shadversity, there's the possibility that his experience is similar to Matpat's work, schedule, and how it's done. But nothing like that is mentioned in the GamerFromMars' video. Don't misconstrue this to say that Matpat isn't right, but until I see the actual screenshots of these dates, like Matpat says in his very comment, he has email chains and dated drafts to prove it, unless these are made public, they're nothing but words. This is me saying that GamerFromMars' reasoning on this and how he's presenting his argument is dumb.
It appears that both channels were working on similar videos at the same time. While Matt had a reasonable explanation to all this, it hasn't stopped many who despise game theory from using this all against him.
Examples? Examples? No? Alright then. Congrats on making that straw man.
Before attacking someone, ask yourself if you'd be outraged if a person you liked was the one under scrutiny.
Yes, well, I can't speak for other people, but for myself, yes. Yes, I would. In fact, I've covered people in the past that I do like. Gaming Sins, Birdkeeper Toby, Butch Hartman, Jacksepticeye, originally Quentin Reviews, Connor the Waffle, Ellis the Alien. And in case you're wondering, because GamerFromMars posed this question, and since I was one of the first people to actually criticize Matpat over these situations on YouTube, I feel like this is directed at people like me.
If the answer is you wouldn't be upset in that case, then maybe you should calm down.
And maybe you should look at the whole situation before and not actually ignore a crucial part of it.
So with this drama being so unsubstantial in the great scheme of things, why has it blown up so much?
Because you cut the context and didn't actually provide the context your audience needs. And that's pretty much it. And after this, you've got GamerFromMars claiming about why people hate Matpat. Because he's so cheery and positive in his videos, and that Matpat is trying to go for an emotional manipulation.
Whether right or wrong, some people think that it's all emotional manipulation in an attempt to get more views. And some people have gone as far to claim that he's actually really nasty in real life.
And again, I need to ask, who are these people? And to be fair, yes, in my Dear Matpat video that I made years ago, I claimed Matpat was manipulating his audience with music, but it was only for one video and was something that I said I could be wrong about. But considering that GamerFromMars doesn't address or name anyone here, or even show that these claims are real, what am I supposed to think he's referring to?
Although I've seen no evidence to back that up, so I personally do not believe it.
And you're not missing anything else! Look, like I said in my original video and in my comments, the whole thing blew up and shouldn't have been a controversy in the first place. Pirate Software should have contacted Matpat about the situation privately, and Matpat's response was off-putting to say the least. Hell, I'll go so far to say that Legal Eagle shouldn't have made those claims at the end of his video. But people are obviously overlooking the context of the situation, citing hypocrisy when there isn't any, and trying to make the situation appear different than what it actually was. GamerFromMars' video is emblematic of that issue, and considering one of the biggest issues I have with Matpat is him removing context from his videos to make his theories work, that right there is extremely ironic. So yeah, I'm Common, and remember to examine your fandom. Thanks for watching!